France arrived at this World Cup with maybe the most terrifying attacking lineup the tournament has ever assembled. Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Michael Olise, Bradley Barcola, 16 goals in 6 games. On paper, unstoppable, almost unfair. So explain this to me. How did that team walk into a World Cup semi-final and produce a grand total of nothing? Spain did not just beat France on Tuesday night in Dallas. They schooled them, embarrassed them, made the best forward line on the planet look like it had never met before. But here's where a straightforward defeat turned into a full-blown refereeing storm. Because instead of quietly accepting the beating, France came out after the final whistle absolutely furious. Aiming both barrels at the referee FIFA had handpicked for the game, their manager stood at the podium and openly questioned whether the official was even fit to run a semi-final. They raged about the penalty. They hinted at a whole string of decisions that had supposedly gone against them. Suddenly, the story was not Spain's masterclass at all. It was whether France had been robbed on the biggest night of their tournament. So were they? Or is this the flimsiest excuse we have seen from anyone all summer? Let us get into what the heck actually happened. Start with the football, because the football is damning enough on its own. Spain won 2-0, and honestly, that scoreline flattered France. This was a masterclass in control. Mikel Oyarzabal slotted a first-half penalty, Pedro Porro added a second, and in between and around those goals, Spain simply owned the ball, owned the tempo, owned the game. Rodri, back to the imperious Ballon d'Or form he had before rupturing his ACL, sat in the middle of the pitch and conducted the whole thing like it was a training exercise. Spain have now gone 37 matches unbeaten since March 2024. European champions along the way, and their coach declared them, flatly, the best team in the world. On this evidence, who is arguing? France, the pre-tournament favorites, never got a single foothold. And that fearsome front line? Mbappe's one moment of note was a free kick he ballooned harmlessly over the bar. That was it. The most dangerous attack in world football switched off at the wall. And it's worth naming them, because the no-show was collective. Dembele, so unplayable at his best, was a passenger. Olise, quietly one of the finest creators of the whole tournament, barely touched the ball in a dangerous area. Digne and Barcola offered flashes, and nothing more. This was a group of forwards that had terrorized 5 straight opponents, and Spain made them look ordinary because Spain never let them near the ball in the first place. You cannot be the most feared attack on the planet if you're spending the whole game chasing shadows and defending, and that's exactly what Spain reduced them to. Rodri and Fabian Ruiz passed circles around a French midfield that couldn't get close, and every time France did win it back, they gave it straight away again. Spain didn't need to be spectacular. They just needed to keep the ball, and keeping the ball is the single thing they do better than any team alive. Now here's the story France desperately wanted you to focus on instead: the penalty. In the first half, with the game still goalless, Spain's cross came into the French box. Lucas Digne tried to clear it, spun 180 degrees, and swung his boot straight into Lamine Yamal, who had come sprinting in from his blind side. Salvadoran referee Iván Barton pointed to the spot immediately. Oyarzabal scored, and France trailed for the first time in the entire tournament. And afterward, manager Didier Deschamps could not let it go. He stood in front of reporters and again asked the same loaded question. Is the referee good enough to officiate a World Cup semi-final? He brought up the officials next to him. He hinted darkly at certain situations, often unfavorable to us. He tried to make the referee the headline. So let's take it seriously and actually look at the penalty, because this is where France's whole grievance falls apart. Was it a penalty? By the book, yes. There was clear contact inside the box, on an attacking player who had just played the ball. Was it harsh? Sure, a little. Yamal didn't have full possession and Digne was only trying to clear his lines. But the interpretation of the rule was correct, and it's telling that even France's own defender Maxence Lacroix, one of only 2 players who bothered to speak afterward, didn't say it was wrong. He said mildly, "I think it should have been reviewed." That's it. That's the big injustice. A technically correct penalty that maybe deserved a second look. And crucially, this happened in the opening 20 minutes at 0 apiece. It did not rob France of a game they were dominating. France were second best from the first whistle to the last. The penalty didn't cost them this match. It just gave them somewhere to point. And that is why Deschamps going after the referee is so genuinely weak. And it's the heart of this whole mess. Because in the very same breath that he questioned the official, he also admitted the truth. He conceded it was primarily our fault. He admitted France were a step below technically against a team that knew exactly what it was doing. He even said, and I promise this is a real quote, "I don't want to sound like a crybaby," which he said immediately before sounding exactly like a crybaby. You do not get to be outplayed for 90 minutes, produce nothing with the finest collection of forwards on the planet, and then stand at a podium and aim shots at the man with the whistle. That isn't analysis. It's deflection. And everybody could see it. Spain's coach, Luis de la Fuente, sliced right through it with one line. When things don't go our way, we can always find some excuse. And here's the detail that completely demolishes the victim act, courtesy of Spain's own Rodri, who pointed out that Yamal was being fouled over and over with nothing given, saying 10 or 15 fouls where the kid goes to the ground. In other words, if the referee's leniency favored anyone, it favored France. The one team with a real refereeing grievance that night was Spain. And there's a detail that quietly buries the whole "the ref was against us" narrative. Late in the first half, Barton actually overturned a decision in France's favor, waving away a foul after Dembele went down on the edge of the Spanish box, despite Spanish protests, for reasons that weren't even entirely clear. So this wasn't an official picking on France all night. This was a referee making a spread of calls that landed on both sides, including one that went France's way. Yes, the choice of a CONCACAF referee for a semi-final of this size raised a few eyebrows when it was announced. But raised eyebrows are not the same as a scandal, and a single technically correct penalty in the 19th minute is not the reason a team of this quality mustered nothing for 90 minutes. But the referee whining isn't even the worst of it. Because while the manager was busy blaming the official, his own captain was busy blaming the manager, publicly, on the record, minutes after the final whistle. Kylian Mbappe, the captain, the talisman, stood in front of the cameras and openly torched Deschamps' tactics. He said France had been outnumbered in the middle of the park. We were 3 against 2 in midfield. That Spain's Rodri and Fabian Ruiz had plenty of time to play, and that France should have gone man-to-man to stop them building. Read that again. That is the captain of France, seconds after a semi-final defeat, telling the world his manager set the team up wrong. That is not a quiet word behind closed doors. That is a public indictment of the head coach's plan on the biggest night of the tournament. When your best player and your manager walk out of the same dressing room pointing in completely opposite directions, you don't have a team anymore. You have a committee of people avoiding a mirror. And here's what makes Deschamps' referee routine look even smaller. Mbappe, for all that he threw his coach under the bus, was at least brutally honest about his team. He said France were too sloppy technically. He said they didn't play the game they wanted, technically or tactically. He said plainly that when you don't do what you have to do in a World Cup semi-final, you don't win. That is the captain openly admitting France beat themselves. So when the manager stands at the next podium over and tries to make it about the officiating, he isn't just contradicting the truth of the match. He's contradicting his own captain, who'd just taken responsibility a few feet away. One of them owned the defeat. The other went looking for someone to hand it to. And then, just to complete the circus, a third French voice offered a third story entirely. Rayan Cherki, having just watched his side get comprehensively outclassed, declared that France are still the better team than Spain. So let's tally up the France dressing room after this defeat. The manager blamed the referee, the captain blamed the manager, and another player blamed reality itself, insisting the team that just lost 2-0 was secretly superior all along. 3 players, 3 completely contradictory explanations, and not a single ounce of collective accountability between them. That is the shambles. A team losing a semi-final is normal. It happens to great sides. A team this obscenely talented losing and then splintering into a live, public, 3-way blame game in front of the world's media? That's not a bad night. That's an implosion. And it's worth noting most of the squad didn't even face the media at all, skipping the mandatory mixed zone entirely and lining up for likely fines. Even their post-match conduct was a mess. So what actually beat France if it wasn't the referee? The answer is boring and it's tactical, and Mbappe ironically diagnosed it perfectly, which is exactly why the ref blaming rings so hollow. France were built top-heavy. All that money, all that firepower, poured into the front line, sitting on top of a midfield 2, Aurélien Tchouaméni and Adrien Rabiot, that got completely swamped by Spain's midfield 3. For 5 matches, the sheer quality of France's attack papered over that imbalance because lesser opponents couldn't punish it. But Spain are not a lesser opponent. Spain are the best ball-controlling side on earth, and they walked into that soft midfield, took the ball, and never gave it back. France's fullbacks got exposed. Their forwards, so lethal when the game is stretched and chaotic, offered nothing when they were starved of the ball and asked to defend. The old questions about whether this France team was too front-loaded, questions that 16 goals had drowned out, all came roaring back the instant they met a team that could keep the ball off them. They lost this game in the center circle, not at the penalty spot, and their captain knew it and said it out loud. Which brings us to the truly damning part of the whole night. If Mbappe is right, and France were tactically outmanned in midfield, then the person responsible for that is the manager. So Deschamps blaming the referee isn't just weak, it's a distraction from his own mistake. He got the setup wrong against the one kind of team France couldn't afford to get it wrong against. His own captain called it out immediately, and rather than own that, he reached for the oldest excuse in the sport. For a man who has coached France for 14 years and won a World Cup in 2018, it was a small, sad way to handle a big defeat. And it really was the end of an era, which makes the manner of it sting even more. This was Deschamps' final tournament in charge, with Zinedine Zidane widely expected to take over. So this semi-final was his last real shot at a second World Cup. Instead of a final, he gets a third-place playoff in Miami on Saturday, a consolation game nobody wants to play, as his farewell. 14 years, a world title, and it ends with a whimper and a finger pointed at a referee who it turns out got the big call right. It's a strange, deflating way to close out one of the most successful managerial reigns in French history. And the argument will rage for months about whether Deschamps, so often accused of being too cautious even when he was winning, finally got found out by a team with a clearer identity than his own. His golden generation of forwards never got beaten this tournament. They got outthought. And the man who was supposed to solve that is the one who spent his last night talking about the referee. Spain, meanwhile, march on to the final at MetLife on Sunday, one win away from a second World Cup crown. And on this performance, you'd be brave to bet against them no matter who they face. De La Fuente summed up his side with a line that doubled as a quiet dig at France's galaxy of stars. They are, he said, a team, and when they play like a team, they're unbeatable. France had the bigger names, Spain had the better team. And the difference between those two things just knocked the tournament favorites out and sent them into a very public meltdown. So no, this was not a VAR scandal, however hard France tried to sell it as one. The scandal was watching the most gifted attacking side on the planet turn up to a semi-final, do absolutely nothing, and then loudly blame everyone in the building except themselves. That's not how champions lose. That's how a team with everything and no plan falls apart. Was Deschamps right to even mention the referee, or is this the weakest exit we've seen from a favorite all tournament? Let me know where you stand down below and stick around, because Spain now await the winner of England and Argentina, and that final is going to be something else.